shifts now. I was looking at this thing the other day that had a misspelling in it, and it was some statement about we've got to shut down the country again. And like it was repeated on all of these Twitter things. And it was obviously wrong because we could tell it was like the same source because crazy world. And it's 59, still 59. Refresh. And still 59. Because it's still 59. It's not even time yet.
No.
I don't actually know what Aaron's mechanism is for like knowing when we've actually started. That's
I'm gonna watch this.
But that's like 30 seconds behind. So they got 30 seconds of inane chatter.
Oh no.
So like I'm gonna just make something up. How about those clowns in Congress? Who can believe those clowns did it again?
That's what everyone tunes into this to listen to.
Political commentary. How about that weather we're having?
Oh man. Now that
What
I
a
have a
bunch
window
of-
office, I actually know what the weather is.
Must be so nice to move from the interior to the window side.
It was great.
It's like really better than a pay increase or anything. It's like the biggest promotion we can offer here.
I mean, if I got a pay increase, I'd be willing to go into a closet again.
Would ya?
I think so. That'd be an interesting question. Yeah.
I don't know how much it would take for me to go into an internal office.
Yeah.
I don't think I think I could do it.
That'd be a fun quiz to
Yeah, we should go and ask everyone.
Would
like,
you
what's
rather?
your value? See who values their office the most.
Yeah.
Or the least.
Yeah. Be interesting.
Oh,
Hey,
oh,
we're
there we
live.
go.
There we are.
Hey everybody, how you doing? My name's Alex.
And I am not Aaron.
You are not Aaron?
Clearly.
We've upgraded. Aaron's on
Paternity leave.
and so we have Teresa of the two surnames jumping in. It
Yes.
must be so fun to have two surnames.
It confuses
You?
people.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
can
yeah.
never find me in their database. I'm always like DE space
Yes.
WIT.
Absolutely. What does DeWitt mean?
It means the white
Teresa
in
the
Dutch,
White.
which is apparent in my coloring.
White hair,
Yep.
like just yes,
Super
impressive.
Dutch.
Okay, my name. I don't know what my name is. It means something. Walton. But we are back, and Aaron will be back potentially next week with someone who isn't me because I'm on vacation
Yes.
next week. But you're here
That'll
this
be a
week,
surprise.
and jumping in to have this fun conversation about to drink tea.
Yes.
And I made you your tea. Just
He makes really good tea.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very English, and we're both drinking from very English cups. We were going to try and find like finger sandwiches and
Cucumber,
doilies
yeah.
and maybe some scones.
Oh,
Did you
yes.
say scones or scones?
Scones.
Excellent.
Otherwise, it sounds like sconces.
Oh, you can't eat sconces.
Nope.
That'd be strange. So we are here to drink tea on the Guy and Girl Drinking Tea podcast.
Yeah.
For this week, but also to talk about this series that we've been doing here at South. We've been doing this thing on everyday spirituality. And this week we talked about something that you find
Yes.
easily love.
I was really interested when we talked about having me come on here because the topic was like work-life balance,
Yeah.
right? And that's something that I struggle with a lot. I'm an Enneagram 3 and I love to work.
So you say Enneagram 3, some people out there, they may not Enneagram,
Yes.
but broadly speaking, that means...
You love to get things done. You love to accomplish things. It's hard for you to relax and take a break. So
Yes.
that's my like normal trajectory.
Yeah,
That's where I find myself.
If you want to see Teresa start to tap a desk with frustration, invite her to a meeting that's like super high level wandering and pondering type things with no concrete decisions being made.
I'm over here like pulling my eyes out. Like, what are we going to do about it? Feet on the
It's
ground.
got to be something to do.
Yes.
But I talked. So little sermon summary for those
Yeah,
of you that aren't
that'd be great.
Southie people who weren't here.
Southie.
We talked about this idea that Jesus makes this offer to people, which is really compelling. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weak, weary, and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And in this version of the message, it goes something like, "Come and learn
How
the
I do it.
unforced rhythms of grace. Copy me, watch what I do, learn the unforced rhythms of grace." And I don't know about you, but there's something about that that's for me is like, whew, that doesn't sound like it sounds more gentle than my life,
Yeah.
which doesn't always sound unforced with rhythms or grace. So there's this invite. And so this week we looked at the idea of what it is to play. So actually, a bit further back, we actually looked at vapor.
Yeah.
So this book Ecclesiastes has this idea of a vapor It uses this word habel, which we sometimes translate meaningless, but vapors may be a better description. And I sprayed a spray bottle in the air repeatedly so we can watch as this thing disappears.
I thought you were having a cat problem and you were trying to
like, there's so many cats on the stage. Next week, we're going to start the service with 23 cats on stage. and that spray, it kind of gives that picture of what vapor is. You can't cling to it, you can't capture it. Mm-hmm. And yet we spend a lot of our lives trying to almost accumulate or manicure or manage vapor. Mm-hmm. Like we want to collect it, we want to work for it, we want to earn it, we want to do.
Absolutely.
And then there's these two things that we're invited into that aren't about achievement or production. Based on Ecclesiastes, you could make the argument they're still vapor, they still disappear, but they're not about accumulating it or controlling it. It's simply just experiencing it.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
That was play and rest. Mm-hmm. So this week we got to talk about play and what it is to have fun. Ecclesiastes in chapter 8 just says, so I recommend you have fun, which is not typically what I think of when I think of the Bible.
Right. It's not a tattooed Bible verse you see very often.
I might get Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verse 1 tattooed down my arm.
On a pin cushion.
Yeah.
Or not, no, the pillows with the embroidery.
Yes.
Just have fun.
I did know a guy once who got, that verse where it says don't get tattoos. I think it's something like Leviticus 18 verse 27.
Yeah.
He had Leviticus 18 verse 27 tattooed down his arm.
Bold.
Which is fine. I don't tend to think of my body as something to use to make vaguely ironic, humorous statements. That's a lot of effort and very long lasting for a niche joke.
This niche joke is going to be on me for 50 plus years.
because the first time I saw it, I was like, that's kind of funny. And then after a while, I was like, yeah, kind of wasted some body space. But Ecclesiastes 8 has this concept of, enjoy life, experience it. I want people to have fun, which is a bit foreign to us. And so we wrestled with the idea this week as play as something children do, and maybe they're wiser than us. Mm-hmm. And I told people about my son coming to me, and he made this beautiful offer. He was like, "Do you want to come play stick tree with me?"
Stick tree.
And I was like, "Well, what's stick tree?" And it turns out you simply find a stick, you find a tree, and you hit the tree with the stick.
So therapeutic.
Yeah. I even had people ask me, what are the codified rules of stick tree? How do I know?
How do I win this?
Yeah. Again, maybe a problem for an Enneagram 3. You can't win stick tree. Nobody wins at stick tree, not even the tree.
I think the rule should be that whoever lasts playing stick tree the longest wins.
So that picture of play, and I think the thing that stuck out to me was this G.K. Chesterton quote that children are able to play because they have this endless capacity for monotony. They're not in a rush to get stuff done. They're just simply entering into it. And G.K. Chesterton kind of says, maybe that's what God's like. Maybe he has endless capacity for those moments. Maybe all daisies aren't the same because they have to be. Maybe he just never gets bored of making daisies. Maybe he's able to enter into those childlike things. Maybe he has maybe children are more like God than we are in some ways. They can switch from rest to play to work, and they're okay with it.
Yeah.
So somewhere the idea was balance, and then the question becomes how do we do that?
Yeah, practically. Yeah. What's
so
that look like?
You mentioned you struggle with work-life balance.
Sure.
Why? What causes the struggle?
I think that there's a lot of things that go into that. I grew up in the Midwest, farmer's daughter. Our area is very much we believe in hard work. But the fascinating thing about that too is and
that's quite a Dutch thing, right?
It is. Yep.
Yeah. It's quite Dutch.
Absolutely. But another thing too, growing up in that area, we take Sabbath very seriously too, and that was something that I struggled with moving somewhere. Where I feel like work is still something that's very appreciated in this culture as well in Denver. But Sabbath is just kind of, if you can, great. And if not, it's okay.
Well, we've had that dynamic before, because I think one of the things you're known for on our staff is working hard. We're kind of if something's going to get done, give it to Teresa and she'll make it happen. But at the same time, you do know what Sabbath is. And we've had conversations before where it's been, and I'm going to do the air quotes, emergency stuff. Like maybe it was in COVID when we had to send out an announcement, and I would send you a message and saying, hey, I'm sorry to ask you to do this on your Sabbath, but it's an emergency. But in my mind all the time, I was kind of like, to what degree is it an emergency? Does it really? What if there were no computer? What if the only way was to do it?
Go door to door.
Yeah. The idea that it was an emergency I was always a little uncomfortable with that. And you would always be very nice and you'd be like, yeah, that's fine. I can absolutely take care of it.
In the messages. No,
yeah,
just
in
kidding.
the messages, yeah. In the background, like ranting away.
I will say though, like when those things came up, I would try and keep in my mind, like, okay, I put in an hour's extra of work here. I'm going to let myself sleep in on Monday morning, or I'm going to try and leave early Monday afternoon. Like, I love having a job where you kind of like can make your own hours to some sense. I've come from a corporate world where it was like, if you were there at 8:01, you were late.
Yes.
Like if you were there 10 minutes early, you were on time.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting for me to go from that to being like, it's dependent on me to like be here from this time to this time. When I first came on staff at South, it was right before Christmas time. It was my first time working in ministry, first time working in communications, first time in charge of a department. And I remember staying in the office till like 7 at night, and I would just be so stressed out, but I was like, I've got to get this done. I've got to get this done. And I remember Larry, our previous executive pastor, would come by. And I was like, I have to get this done. People are depending on me. And he was very good at helping me like calm down and it's going to be all right. And something he'd say was like, for my like Enneagram 3 work brain, the thing that stuck with me from my language was like, the work that you do past your like 8 hours, it's honestly probably not going to be very good.
If you are that stressed and tired.
Like God hasn't built us to be robots. He's built us to need sustenance, to need rest, to need sleep.
Which is hilarious because for those of you who know that one of Larry's favorite jokes was, well, it all depends on you, so don't screw it up. Which is what he said to me the day he left. He was like, yeah, okay, here we go.
Anytime you're about to go on stage, he'd like elbow you as a joke because it reminds you like, it doesn't all depend on me.
It doesn't all depend on you.
Unless you're in a bad state of mind, it backfired. And you're like, oh no, what if it does?
What if it does, though?
But that was good for me because I think in the place I was at, I was like, well, why am I stressing myself out if what I'm producing isn't even going to be good? It's better for me to, like, I'm going to produce better work if I leave room for rest. And I think it's so funny that, like, I love it when we see what, like, God tells us in the Bible and commands us to do, when we see it reflected in science. Like, oh, that's what's human flourishing will happen with that type of, well, I mean, it will usually flourish more by following those. Yeah,
absolutely.
Those tracks.
And it's interesting, like you talked about, like there is this, Sabbath's interesting because it comes from like this Jewish tradition, and it starts off as no other nation did Sabbath. This was a pretty unique thing. They came out of slavery from working 7 days a week. Go, go, go. There was no rest. There was no weekend.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah. It's not like it's Friday night. Oh, and now we're gonna do whatever till Monday. It's like it's still Monday. It's always Monday. And you're always going. And so to offer Sabbath, on one hand, is grace. It's this beautiful picture of here's free rest. But on the other hand, it's like, no, you have to do this. And in Jewish culture, if you didn't do it, well, you could get stoned for it, you get punished for it, all these different things. Like it was
pressure.
Don't mess around with the Sabbath. So from that culture, if we could like transpose that into, we need to send out a quick email, open up your computer. The question is, would you be allowed to do that? Would you? So Sabbath has this perk to it. It also has this cost to it because somewhere you have to trust that God is going to take care of the other stuff.
I think that it can be a pride issue sometimes too, at least for me. Like it's a good reminder to be like, if I am not available for 24 hours, like the world's still going to go on without me. Like I'm not a parent, so I know, like, I can't imagine what that's like trying to put that into that perspective.
And that parenting definitely, I think, blurs the lines between work, play, and rest.
That makes sense.
And that, like, just based on our different like life settings right now, you are dating in a relationship. It's a really important relationship. It's like a year now plus, and yet you have a chunk of freedom that allows you to say, oh, this seems like fun, or this doesn't seem like fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I have like, well, is stick tree play if I don't want to do stick tree, but my son does? Like,
that's interesting.
Who's deciding? Who determines what's rest?
Or you could be like, sorry, Jude, this is my Sabbath.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just now, we were talking in the office. Steve, our executive pastor, said, I joked about like, no, we just work here. We don't play or rest. And he was like, oh, you're going to cancel your vacation? And I was like, well, I don't know if you call my vacation rest. I'll be teaching fishing. I'll be.
I've heard that from parents.
And I think the first time that twigged for me was just after I had my first child, and Elena was maybe 6 months old, still in a phase of life where Laura was doing almost everything with her.
Yeah.
And she still wasn't certainly wasn't playing.
Sure.
And I was in the gym, in the changing rooms, and I was listening to two guys chat, and one of them said, oh, what did you do over the weekend? And he said, oh, I went camping with my kids. And he said, oh, was it fun? He was like, yeah, it was fun, but now I'm ready to get back to the office so I can rest, which is so interesting. Like, I'm going to work to rest.
Wow.
Because play can be hard in terms of like energy required and all those different things.
I always love to try and squeeze in one extra vacation day after vacation to like get caught up on things. I'm like, I just need a day before getting into the office to like do my laundry, organize my house, get groceries, and then I feel like all settled.
That's
and
such
like,
a personality thing.
Really? You don't do that?
No, in actual fact, my family were the family that growing up, we would have like the rental place we would stay, and you always have to get kicked out, or what is it, 11 o'clock in the morning or whatever.
Yeah.
And we would just pack everything in the car, but then go sit on the beach till like 7 in the evening. With no place to be, we just hang out, and then we leave, because my dad was always like, we're going to maximize this time.
I love that.
We're going to stretch it out. So he would get home, and then like the next day was back to going again.
Wow.
That's who we were. So finding that balance for you, as you say, is difficult. Like, and you found some ways to set some boundaries.
Yeah. I think I had to kind of relearn what Sabbath was for me, because I think it's different for different people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's a problem, and this is just me personally, with someone like if their job has them working on Sundays, to take a Sabbath on a different day.
And that is interesting, because that whole thing, like, we live in this culture which service goes all the time.
Yeah,
it never stops.
24 hours.
Just completely.
Yeah.
I used to take vacations in the south of France, and very secular. Like maybe 2% of people go to church. A slightly larger percent would say they were nominally followers of Jesus, or Christians at least. But on a Saturday at about 6, all the stores shut. And if you don't have milk and bread on Saturday at 6,
too bad.
You're not getting it till Monday at 9.
Yeah.
Like, the thing stops.
Wow.
And so they still intuitively know you've got to have a stop. And we, Christian America with 40% church attendance or whatever,
we want 2-day shipping. We want it right now.
I even get resentful, because I lived in a country that had 1-day shipping. Because England's so small, I'm like, 2 days? What are you doing?
I don't have Prime, so I like...
Now Prime,
that teaches me patience.
Lots of things on Prime will give you same day. You can get here, like, you can get it there in 8 hours. It's nuts.
I'm super cheap, so I try to, like, I'll put something in my cart, and then a few days later, I'm like, I don't need that, and then I take it out. So that's my way of saving money.
But you experience this different type of Sabbath.
Yeah.
And so Sabbath maybe is this time of rest. It's also this time that maybe in a modern day we think about play as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do for fun when you love working?
So I never really associated Sabbath with play before until I came here. Well, and Denver's just such a playful area too. Like, you go downtown, you go to the mountains, like there's so many fun things to do. And what I realized was, for me, Sabbath was doing something different than my day-to-day work.
I love that.
So it could be something like going to the gym. Like, I love having that as like a way to just like shake it all out and just like start fresh, get all those endorphins. And it's so different from sitting at a desk for 8 hours.
Absolutely.
So for me, I feel so free and like I actually get to use my body.
Yeah.
I feel alive.
Yeah.
So that's the way that I rest. But then at the same time, you have to be in the right mindset for it, because it could be, oh, well, you know, I need to stay healthy. I need to do this, like check the box of like going to the gym. So there, like this Monday, I know we have meetings on Monday afternoons and you were like, have fun at the class at gym.
Yeah, because you just,
that's what I do. And I had like a long day at work that day. And I told myself, I was like, you know what? That's not what's going to be helpful to my soul right now. And I just need to go home and rest. And I need to believe that like nothing's bad is going to happen if I give myself one day. So it's almost giving yourself that leeway.
Well, I found that, and again, different life settings, which is always fascinating.
Yeah.
I have a life setting where I'm just always around people.
Yep.
And my job has a lot of interaction. I probably have more meetings than anybody else, just by nature of
I see your calendar, you do.
Yeah, it's just like, so I'm just like going from one thing to another. Right? And then I have this beautiful home life that I adore, but I have 3 kids that I'm very interactive with. We play a lot together. We do a lot of stuff together. So I got to this point where I realized I had no space that was just mine. Even the stuff that I would have called fun was with other people. So I would occasionally go play golf with some South people, but I'm still doing the thing.
Yeah.
So I actually intentionally started crafting out ways to find space just to be by myself. So now what I do regularly is I'll get up about 5 in the morning and the kids will wake up somewhere in the next hour or so and we'll interact. I'll get them breakfast, different things. But somewhere about 7, I wake Laura up and I just go for a walk. And sometimes I'll swim at the like halfway point. Sometimes I'll do rowing when I get back. But it's this way of mingling prayer, exercise, solitude, all these different things in a way that actually is just beautifully restful for me. Just detaches me from everything else.
Yeah, it's intentional rest. It doesn't happen by default.
But whereas you right now, I mean, you're in a relationship, but you live in an apartment
I have
by yourself.
I am all by myself.
So space is actually like solitude is not a hard thing for you right now.
It was really interesting because during quarantine, I was in a house with 3 other girls. Love them. We're like sisters. Like, so whenever I was at home, it was really easy to like not work because we'd all be hanging out in the living room or cooking dinner, and you have that time to interact.
And you can complain about work.
And they don't work with you. So,
yeah,
all the time. Yeah. But it was just so great to come together, and we might be cooking different things, but we all could come. And it would be a distraction from work for me. I'm not going to have my laptop out working when I'm hearing about my friend's day.
Yeah.
So that was so like, I'm so glad that like God had them in my life during that time. I tell them, I'm like, if I had to quarantine in my 1-bedroom, like 460 square foot home, I would have been a hot mess.
Yeah.
So now when I go home, like I don't have that like social interaction anymore. And it's been good for me in some ways, but in other ways I'm like, well, I'm not talking to anyone. Like it's so tempting just to like pull up, oh, this work thing is bothering me. Like I had it the other night, like I couldn't fall asleep. And I was thinking about a work thing, and I like leave my phone outside of my room. Like I found that's a really good practice for me. I don't need blue light in front of my face while I'm trying to fall asleep. And I ended up like getting out of bed and like checking it and looking at it, and then I got it out of my head and I went to bed. I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not. Like,
oh man, I don't know if it was either.
I shouldn't have told you
that. What's the moral? Like,
oh my goodness.
But that finding that balance is key, and it seems like that's Jesus' invitation to unforced rhythms of grace, somewhere you need all of those things. Joyfully we get to play and we get to do things that are fun. Joyfully we get to stop doing things of any kind and rest ourselves, whatever that looks like for us. And there's this book that I love by a guy called Wayne Mueller on Sabbath, and he just has these gentle rhythms in it. Like he'll say something like, the work day is done, light a candle alone or with friends. Whatever didn't get done won't get done today, and it's okay. And so like you talked about Sabbath, whether that's a playful Sabbath or a restful Sabbath, and we would say I would say the lines are pretty blurred there.
It depends what your soul needs.
What your soul needs, that stopping of work, stopping of the thing that achieves, is key, and it is that trust. You almost like said exactly the same thing as I'm about to say. It's that trust that the world will survive without you for a day. And so for me, like I love this practice of these three things that we'll talk about this Sunday. Somewhere in Sabbath, there's this invitation for the world to trust the world will survive without you for a day. And then to take some solitude and trust that the people that rely on you will survive without you for an hour. That was key for me.
Yeah.
Like taking a walk and going for a swim and doing those things. Laura and the kids will be okay. They don't need me there every moment. They'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll get back and the world will still be going for them. They don't, And then this was another like key step for me. Somewhere in that day and that hour to practice silence. And when I say silence, I don't just mean not speaking. I mean intentionally trying to shut down the treadmill in my mind. Because I am absorbed in my work too. And thinking about all the things. Like, where will South be in 10 years? Oh, how is this person doing with his sickness? Like all over the place.
So many pieces.
Yeah. How will sermons be for the next ever?
No pressure.
Just all those different things.
I'm going to solve this on the walk. Do you have it when you're trying to fall asleep that you're like, I need to solve all the world's problems until I can fall asleep? Or is that a 3 thing?
So Laura would tell you very frustratingly, for whatever reason, my superpower is the moment I get into bed, I can switch off everything.
That's amazing.
And just like I just I'll get back to that.
Good for you.
But that silence moment is actually a faith statement too, because it's a belief you can survive without you for a second. Like you can trust everything to God. You can give it to him and stop trying to figure everything out. Like you don't need to keep going. That's such a learned behavior.
Seriously.
Because we all problem solve. We all use it as this thing. No, I can fix this. What can I do? And sometimes you just have to say, God, I'm going to stop. Yeah. And the monkeys are going to stop jumping around the cage, like in my mind. Like I'm just going to just let it go. And so Sabbath is great and solitude is great. And when you add that component of like, I'm going to stop and listen for God's voice. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes my solitude, if it involves prayer, can be me just venting on God all of the things that I'm like, there's a lot to like let you know.
I'm gonna unpack.
Yeah, let me let you hear the list.
Can you believe XYZ?
Exactly. And somewhere actually getting to a point of saying, okay, God, I'm actually gonna shut up for a while. Not just verbally, but internally.
Yeah, that's a difference too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut up and just
So good. I think in our culture too, like we find so much of our identity in what we produce. And I think it's a good reminder to be like, God values me whether I'm crossing a million things off my list or if I'm taking a silent walk.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he's like keeping score of like how much you got done that day.
Oh, God's lack of interest in scorekeeping is fascinating.
Right.
That's just he doesn't seem interested in doing that thing at all. And we do. And it's interesting, like the Sabbath summary is a faith statement that God can do more in 6 days than we can do in 7. But even then, that's become like this question. I don't know if you've read any of this stuff. There's this whole bunch of people that are pushing for 4-day work weeks. Oh, yeah. Because they're like, people are more productive with 4 days, all those different things. So it's a God story. God says do Sabbath. It's a Jewish story. It's a Christian story. It also seems somewhere it's a human story.
Science goes along with what God's been saying.
Yeah, you are not the most productive. Fields are not the most productive when you grow stuff in them every year.
Yeah, and you need to rotate.
Animals are not the most productive when you reproduce them every year.
Yeah.
Work is not the most productive when you do it every day. Somewhere.
Let the ground rest.
Yeah, the farmers know what they're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Which is fascinating. Wow. This was a fun conversation.
This was good.
Thanks for jumping in with us. And next week, Aaron will be talking to someone, I'm sure. Maybe to you.
Maybe.
Maybe you'll be like a staple now. Maybe it's just, he's like, we got to do this.
Guys and one girl drinking tea.
I love it. But it's been fun to hang with you guys. And as always, subscribe, like, review, all those different things. All the YouTubey things. Those are your territory. I don't really know what they are.
You did great.
What does it mean to subscribe to something? I don't know.
You hit a button. It's below the video. And then they get a notification whenever we go live again.
I love that.
So it's great.
Yes. And sometimes we go live and there's not actually a video to watch because of human error, me.
We're not perfect people.
We are not perfect people. And there's a podcast that you can also listen. If you're someone who doesn't want to sit and watch a video, which is definitely me, I almost watch no video content.
Same.
If there's a news article and it's links to a video, I'm like, give me the words, because I can read them in like a quarter of the time.
I'm in control of the text, right?
I don't want to hear your rambling. But yes, thanks for supporting us, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.